I think, yeah, it's a mixed bag. There's definitely both. Currently, I think a lot of people, I think part of the problem is just the assumption that comes from a lot of the viewers that if you're casting StarCraft 2, you're getting paid for it, which is not the case. I'm still not getting paid for it. Moletrap's not getting paid for it. That might change in the near future. We'll see. But yeah, a lot of this is still very much voluntary work, and it's a lot of hard hours. And I think it creates a weird dynamic, and that's, I guess those are the two bad that I worry about. Is I think viewers start turning into more consumers when they assume that people are getting paid for it, which is why I've always been a little bit tentative about donations, and I've asked for donations here and there, but I'm very sensitive about that because I don't want people to kind of get in the mind frame. It's like, oh well, I paid my $250 that I donated for this, therefore I should do X, Y, and Z. Because it goes both directions. I don't feel like as a commentator I want to view I never want to view my viewers as just a number or a statistic, and that gets harder and harder as the number gets larger and larger. If people send a message to my inbox, I almost try to answer it every single time. I like responding to the comments. I can when I can. I don't get a lot of time to do that. But I think that's the other problem is when it gets big like this, and when money gets involved, it loses a bit of the human element. People kind of lose the view of commentators as people, and instead, we actually in the pre-interview I talked about this. I almost want to make a direct comparison to the Japanese anime scene, where you had people producing something where, like Naruto, for example, and people had zero loyalty to whichever group was producing it, and I think because it was just in such a way that it was very difficult to put any sort of human face on it. And then if it was released in Japan, people expected it to be released online 5 minutes later, and they would complain and yell, and they still do this for a lot of the manga that's released. They'll make really unreasonable demands, even though these people are essentially putting in free work on their free time, and it really is. I assume that they're probably putting in more work than I am even. It's like almost a full-time job doing that sort of thing. And yet people have these weird expectations for something that more or less they're not paying for, and just the unreasonable demands. The good part of it is, instead of focusing just on the bad, the good part is I think it's creating a lot of good stuff. I think that the quality of the videos has gone up overall. I feel like just the polish and everything has gone up. Part of the difficulty is there's demand for that now, but I honestly feel like that's a challenge, and that's driven me to make better stuff, I think, to make a better commentary. Yeah, and I feel like that has been a very strong drive. And I, again, mentioned this before, so I feel like I'm being repetitive here, but I still feel like the essence of StarCraft is being better today than I was yesterday, and I feel like the same works for StarCraft commentaries. I want to be better today than I was yesterday, and there's definitely challenges in that, and I think part of that is just the production side of it. And hopefully I'll get to the point where it is something really nice and polished, and it's not taking me excessive amounts of additional time. That's kind of the challenge of it for me right now, is figuring out a way to do it and automate it and make it pretty without taking a huge amount of time, and not creating something where it's just a giant time sink, which kind of is already, but whatever. But yeah, to take that challenge and just to try to be the best commentator possible, to be better tomorrow than I am today, and set it up. And I feel like, yeah, I'm getting there, both in like the speech, and specifically I feel like there's big leaps and bounds with just the visuals, which I'm hoping will improve in the near future, which won't be huge. I mean, it'll just be like logo, maybe an intro, maybe an outro, but like a little replay bar cover I know is a huge thing. And I just figured out how to do that. I think everybody else had been using in-friend view and doing the live overlay, but I've been using Fraps, and you can't actually use that for that. So it took me forever, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And then I realized everybody was just doing live stream recording, or they weren't live streaming and still using the screen capture recording. And finally I figured out a way to do it now. So hopefully, for the announcement in that regard, people can enjoy the logos, the various logos I'm going to be putting up in the future. I've had a lot of feedback, people making banners for me, which has been really fun.
So, there you hear it, folks. If you want to contribute to Diggity's production, make him a pretty logo. I'm sure he'd appreciate it a lot. But yes, I agree with you. The industry standard for making videos on YouTube when it comes to StarCraft has raised itself immensely. People have really raised the bar so much. I mean, I don't want to recommend people doing it, but if they can check out my very first interview, which I did with the legendary Class Art almost exactly a year ago. and it's awful. And at least I can say that this video is a lot better, because it has to be, just to stay in the game. And I personally have enjoyed all that struggle, the technical struggle it has meant to learn and appropriate and figure out how to do stuff. And that has been a lot of work that is not actually creating content, just learning how to stay ahead of the curve by an inch maybe. And still, it provides better content for all of us, and it's the essence of StarCraft, constant improvement, truly. But as a commentator then, you strive more for quality of entertainment than you do for subscriber numbers and potential gigs that you might get out of it. It's an art more than it is a potential source of income for you, or what would you say?
Yeah, I definitely am not refusing people paying for commentary, but at the same time, unless it's paying a large amount of money, I still have a full-time job that I need to pay the bills. That takes the focus, and I really do enjoy my job. I'm more or less like I cannot complain about my job in any regard. I guess it's okay to say that I work at DivX. I basically watch movies for a living. That is essentially the essence of my job. It is fantastic. It's still tiring and takes up time, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, if people wanted to pay me for commentary down the line, I would definitely be excited about that. There's definitely been opportunities that have popped up for me. Machinima's asked me to produce some stuff for them. I'm trying to figure out something good that would be good to put up on their channel, and been figuring out for them. There's also been other groups that have said, hey, produce stuff for us and put it up on our channel, and I'm going to do that in the near future, hopefully. Whether that will actually result in any real income, we'll see. But it is kind of fun in the meantime, and really it's just a nice opportunity to expose people. And really that's the way I'm trying to look at it, instead of looking at the dollar signs. Because I feel like once money starts coming into things, unless you're, and I'm almost scared, honestly, of money getting involved in a lot of this, because it puts a different, it has the risk of putting a lot of a different tone on it and making it more of a pressure activity than an enjoyable activity. And it also, you start getting to the consumerism sort of look at it, and it just creates a lot of, I don't know, I almost feel like sometimes it poisons the water unless you keep it at a very strong distance. So I'm a little bit nervous about that. But yeah, definitely not refusing it, because I don't think there could be a better job than commentating full time, and that would definitely be very appealing. But at the same time, I'm not willing to sacrifice a lot of the things I enjoy about commentary itself to get there. So we'll have to see, and I don't know what that balance will be in the future.
Well, it is an interesting future ahead, and what you talk about is definitely far less impossible now than it was only 6 months ago. I mean, I think we talked about it in the first interview we did. Would you ever consider doing commentary for a living? And of course you said yes, but we'll have to see. And that is still the case. But it's an interesting opportunity, and I know there are many people in and outside the StarCraft scene who make a full-time nice living of YouTube. The advertising program, once you become a partner and have, you have to have a fairly high amount of subscribers, but still you can live of it. It's a realistic opportunity, and I know some StarCraft casters have managed to make that leap. So I guess a question to you would be, do you see the potential YouTube StarCraft stardom, being a celebrity in that case, as something appealing? And considering you've been doing this for a while, have you ever been recognized by a fan or anything like that?
I can remember, I can actually think of a couple occasions. There was one time when I was in a local grocery store here in San Diego, and I think someone recognized my voice, and they just started staring at me and following me around a little bit. That was kind of awkward. I've never really ever wanted to be a celebrity, and honestly, part of the appeal of doing commentary itself for me was the radio aspect of it, where if you saw someone who was on the radio on the streets, unless it was someone like Howard Stern or Rush Limbaugh, really you don't recognize them. You don't go, oh, yeah, that's that guy from the radio. And I really like that appeal, that I can kind of be stealth out and large, because I know it sounds kind of contradictory, but I don't like being the center of attention, and I almost feel like commentary, I try to thrust the attention on the game itself rather than me. And but I enjoy sharing things that I really enjoy with people, and that's kind of the appeal of it. So yeah, I don't think I've ever wanted to be a celebrity. That was kind of an awkward moment. I had another moment actually that was nice at the Green Forest LAN, and that was not too long ago. That was a lot of fun and a big success, where I had someone pausing. They're like, "Oh, you're Diggity." I was like, "Yep, that's me," and that felt kind of nice. But I wouldn't really call that celebrity. That was more like, I feel like inter StarCraft cred sort of stuff. That's kind of nice when I do have to admit, I get a lot of enjoyment when I'm sitting with like my brother-in-law or my brother-in-law, my stepbrother. No, brother-in-law, that's right. My brother-in-law, and I'm having him play StarCraft 2, and he's like, "Man, I'm so bad, and I'm in silver level." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, keep playing. You'll get better," and things like that. And he has absolutely no clue who I am or the things I do. And I know that at some point, eventually, he will find out, and then he'll be hopefully a little bit blown away and have a little bit of fun. So that aspect I do enjoy, but that's mostly like an internal relatives thing rather than I'm recognized by society at large sort of stuff. That's never really appealed to me. I don't think I would like the invasion of privacy or like going out at large and having people be like, "Oh, da, da, da," and or treating me any differently than any normal person, because I think that can sometimes get lost when you have a big voice, as people go, "Oh, you're different somehow as a person. You have more power or something," and it's not the case. It's just ordinary people doing stuff is what it comes down to. Celebrity, like movie stars, everybody. I remember going in LA, and my sister went to UCLA, and there's a lot of people like, you'd have Shaquille O'Neal walking around, and a lot of people got over that. I mean, it's just, he's a big basketball player. Yes, he makes a lot of money, but still just an ordinary human being.
Yeah, well, I think that's a new aspect that comes with StarCraft for many people. I know that, for example, the Honorable Husky has recently moved to LA, and I think that's very much based on his YouTube presence, and that must be quite a big thing, because it comes with the territory of being on screen, and I think that's a transition many people have to make. And like the Liquid guys over in Korea, I think, for example, it's confirmed that TLO will be playing a show match on BlizzCon, and tens of thousands of people watched his games in the GSL recently, and many of them will be at BlizzCon, and it's a whole new aspect of just being a nerd playing a game at a high level. And it's very interesting to see. So, some people will like it, some people will hate it, and some people will be able to make dollars out of it. Very interesting developments that's happening to our old community. I mean, this is its 12th or 13th year now. I can't remember what month the original StarCraft was released, but
it actually was released in October 13th or November 13th. That was when we used to. I'm going to try to do the charity tournament once again. I don't know when I'm going to have time to do it, but we would actually try to donate the money on the re-release of Brood War, which I guess wasn't original StarCraft, so it goes a little bit beyond that. But I believe it was November 13th or somewhere around there, maybe November 31st. I'm going to look it up now, because that's going to drive me nuts. I should have that date memorized.
Should have it tattooed.